Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're trying a bit of a different format today, so I hope you enjoy it. We'll be going over how to get mix-ready melodic death metal tone like your favorite artists from the 2000s down through to the late 90s. We'll be using the Archetype Nolly plugin and primarily the 5150 sim. Before we move on to the video, I'd like to thank Neural DSP for providing the plugin, Stephen Rose and Anthony DiGiacomo for providing the amazing song you're about to hear, and last but not least, Nolly himself. Over the years, we've worked on countless records together where he's dragged me along as a mastering engineer, and this is finally my opportunity to pay it back a little bit. Alright, so here's how the plugin boots up. Straight to the 5150. Let's take a listen. Alright, potential's there, but it's a little bit stuffy. Let's go straight to the stomp box section. So what we've done there is kicked in the overdrive 1, aka the TS808. We've dimed the level and turned the drive to about 9 o'clock. These are classic metalcore settings from the mid-2000s that we used to pass around in the Sneak forum all the time. It gives you an extra saturation into the front end of the amp, which tends to work perfectly for mid-heavy amps like 5150s. Next step is to get a bit more dimensionality into the tone. This amp tends to be full of junk even though it's full of character, so we have to really get aggressive with the EQ controls in order to shape things. Alright, so let me explain what we did there. First things first, the gains drop back a little bit to account for the extra front end level coming in. We use the EQ controls very aggressively to get rid of all those cardboard mids that this amp intrinsically has. And the master knob is probably worth its own little explanation. So the way it functions in this plugin is essentially as a power amp saturation tool. In real life, it would generally run this amp between a master level of about 3 to 4 to adequately saturate the power amp without overdoing it. You hit a bit of a sweet spot where the mids, the lower mids especially, saturate in a very nice way without losing all the dimensionality. As you go higher and higher and higher, unfortunately you lose more and more of that top and bottom detail and it just becomes like a wash of cardboardy mids. So in this plugin, I'd say the sweet spot is about 4. Resonance at 7. Some people get very extreme with these amps and run the resonance all the way at 10 or 9, but I find it pretty much unnecessary unless you're looking to cut extreme amounts of lows out of the mix later on. And on this amp, ironically due to the circuit, the way that it works is that the presence only really kicks in above 8 or so, so it's only about here that you actually start hearing any significant high-end boosts. I find for this amp and this particular tone, just between 8 and 9 is about right. So let's take a listen. Alright, it's a decent starting point. Let's go to the cab. So because Nolly is a badass, the 57 is pretty much in the perfect spot already. It's a great starting point, great way to build about 90% of the tone. All we're going to do is add a secondary microphone to balance things out a little bit. Just a 414, about 10 dB beneath, adding a little bit of extra thickness to the tone. Alright, let's see how this sounds in a mix. Alright, lots of potential, but maybe a little bit flat and raw. So we're going to jump to our mix bus for the rhythm guitars, and I'll show you some very simple EQ moves you can make to clean up the sound. So first things first, you can filter this tone quite heavily up to about 135 Hz. You dip down the lower mid-range at about 215. Dip down the flat cardboard mids at about 700 Hz. Go up to about 2K, dip out some stuff there. Dip out some stuff at about 3.3. Get rid of the fizz at 5 kHz. And finally, low pass filter the tone at about 9.7K. And finally, we get rid of a resonance spike somewhere just beneath 19K on this tone, which you'll be able to see once I start running it on the spectrogram. And finally, just to finish it off, we're running a multi-band compressor just across the low end and the lower mid-range frequencies, mostly to tame the palm mute so that they don't encroach on the bass guitar. And that's that. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to check out Archetype Nolly by Neural DSP. If you just so happen to enjoy the bass performance, be sure to check out Submission Audio, where we make fine virtual bass instruments perfect for demoing, songwriting, and pre-production use. And before we go, make sure to give a subscribe and a like. We'll be doing much more of these videos over the coming year. So until next time, see ya.